Out on the wide open plains, where the sky stretched so far it seemed to swallow the earth whole, lived a cowboy folks didn't know what to make of. He wasn't the loudest man in the saloon, and he didn't brag about his cattle or his winnings at cards. He was quiet, steady, the kind of man who tipped his hat to strangers and never spoke more words than he needed. But behind his eyes there was something strong, something unshakable. The town didn't see that, though. To them, he was just another ranch hand who worked hard, drank little, and minded his own business. And maybe it was that very quietness that made him the target of a cruel joke, because in those days cruelty was entertainment, and people found their laughs at the expense of others. It started with whispers. "Let's see how much pride this cowboy really has," one man sneered behind his glass of whiskey. Another chimed in, "Give him a bride he can't show off, someone who'll drag his name down before it's even built up." They laughed, slammed their drinks, and cooked up a scheme they thought would break him. And so, on a day that was supposed to be filled with celebration and new beginnings, they gave him a bride, but not just any bride, a woman who couldn't walk. A woman paralyzed from the waist down, bound to a chair with wheels instead of boots with spurs. The room erupted in laughter when she was rolled in. You could hear the clinking of glasses, the muttered bets. "He'll walk away in an hour." No cowboy wants a bride who can't ride beside him. "She'll be a burden." Dead weight. But the cowboy didn't laugh. He didn't even frown. He looked at her, really looked at her, and saw what no one else bothered to see. Her eyes. They weren't filled with shame like the crowd expected. They weren't filled with pity for herself either. No, her eyes carried fire. Quiet, stubborn fire. The kind a man could build a whole life around. He tipped his hat, bent down so they were eye to eye, and said the words that silenced the room. "Ma'am, may I have the honor?" From that moment, everything changed. The joke the town thought they had played began to unravel. Day after day, instead of pushing her aside, he pulled her closer. Instead of hiding her away, he lifted her higher, higher than anyone else dared. When the mornings came, he carried her out to the porch so she could watch the sun spill gold across the plains. When he rode into town, he built a special seat for her wagon, so she could ride beside him, her hair whipping in the wind, her laughter scattering across the dirt roads. One evening, when music spilled from the saloon and couples danced under lantern light, people whispered again, "He can't dance with her." Not her, but the cowboy proved them wrong. He scooped her into his arms, pressed her close, and swayed slow under the moon. The music stopped, but they didn't. Even the stars seemed to hush, as if the whole universe was holding its breath. And here's the thing. He didn't just carry her body. He carried her dreams. He built ramps with his own 2 hands so she could move freely in their home. He crafted reins she could handle from her chair so she could drive a horse-drawn cart herself. He gave her wings when the world had tried to clip them. The cruel laughter that once filled the saloon turned into stunned silence. The very men who mocked him couldn't meet his eyes anymore. Because he hadn't just accepted his bride, he cherished her, honored her, and showed every last one of them what real strength looks like. Weeks turned into months, and the story of the cowboy and his bride spread beyond the town. Travelers came through and left whispering about the man who turned a cruel prank into the greatest love story anyone had seen. Parents told their children not about the joke, but about the lesson, that true love doesn't see limitations, it sees possibilities. And the bride, the woman once ridiculed, became admired. Not because she walked, she never did, but because she stood taller in spirit than anyone else in that dusty town. Her laughter filled rooms, her courage lifted others, and her love for her husband shone brighter than the noon sun over the prairie. The cowboy. He never asked for recognition. He never bragged. When folks tried to praise him, he just tipped his hat and said, "I just love her, that's all." But in truth, it was more than that. He didn't just love her. He redefined what love was. He proved it wasn't about perfection or appearances or walking side by side on 2 strong legs. Love was about carrying each other in every way through every storm. And maybe that's why their story still echoes. Because what began as a cruel joke became a legacy, a reminder that the world may try to mock, to break, to shame, but love has a way of turning cruelty into beauty. Love has a way of silencing every laugh and replacing it with awe. So when you hear their story, don't just remember the joke they tried to play. Remember the cowboy who lifted his bride higher than anyone ever dared. Remember the bride who showed that strength isn't measured in steps but in spirit. And remember that sometimes the very thing meant to humiliate can become the most powerful testimony of love the world has ever seen. Because in the end, they didn't break him. They didn't break her. Together they broke the chains of cruelty and rode into a life that was nothing short of legendary.